Warning, this podcast may cause an uncontrollable urge to quit your desk job and pick up a hard hat. Welcome to Sparky Life, where we discuss all things construction. Join us on Sparky Life every Saturday, the podcast that dives into the wild and downright dirty world of the skilled trades. If you're ready to laugh, learn, and maybe reconsider your career choices, hit that subscribe button because this is where the real work gets done. Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Lia Lamela, Queen of Construction, guide, here to help you navigate through the wild, wonderful, and sometimes weird world of the skilled trades.
Bit different, bit weird.
Today, buckle up. It's Leah from the future. I was traveling for work in New York City at the time of this recorded episode, hence why I was not in the Sparky Life studio. I am dedicated to you and ensuring the show is produced on time and weekly, hence change of scenery sometimes. Fun facts about your RVs here are recreational vehicles. They have a surprisingly deep history in the USA. They are all American, like warm apple pie vibes. Believe it or not, the first motorized RVs started rolling onto the scene in 1910, back when cars themselves were still a pretty new idea. Companies like Pierce Arrow were among the first to put together what they called touring, landau. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Matt, help me out with that.
A word in English. Two different ways of pronouncing it. Landau, or Lando.
Okay.
They're the granddaddy of today's luxury Class A RVs. Why are RVs such uniquely an American thing? Simple. Wide open spaces, a restless spirit, and the dream of freedom on four wheels. Very American. While other countries have campers and caravans, the sheer scale of American RV culture is unmatched. Europe might have its sleek, compact camper vans, but here in the US, we've got fifth wheels so big they need their own zip code. America is actually quite beautiful. We've got the Grand Canyons, Badlands National Park, which is in South Dakota, dramatic landscapes, sharp peaks, and layered rock formations. We have Garden of the Gods, that's in Illinois. There's also Cluster State Park, which is in South Dakota, home of roaming bison, scenic drives, and stunning granite spirals. There's so much more. One favorite that comes to mind is Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri, which has rivers, rolling hills, dense woods, perfect for hiking and camping. And our guest today is the main man in the magical world of RVs. So let's get back to his introduction, because we're discussing a career that's part technician, part adventurer, and 100% game changer. It's the world of RV techs. Now, I know what you're thinking. RV tech, isn't that just a sweaty dude in Crocs slapping duct tape on a Winnebago?
Oh, rude.
Wrong, actually. I know. I thought so too. Literally, that was what popped into my head when I first came across this, okay? This isn't some backyard Band-Aid operation. This is high stakes, high skills, high rewards. Work that powering the homes on wheels revolution. And guess what? I'm not flying solo here. Today's guest, Curtis Hemmeler, an expert in the RV tech world with 3 decades of experience in skilled trades. Curtis is here with us to give us all the insider info on this career path, hidden gem you never knew about. So whether you're skilled trade curious or just sick of sitting behind your desk Googling cool jobs that don't suck, this episode is your sign to hit the road and check it out. So welcome with me, Curtis Hemmeler. Curtis, thank you so much for joining me on the Sparky Life. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Why would anyone want to be an RV tech, right? I mean, we're thinking big fat guy with butt crack and duct tape and Winnebago. Doesn't sound that cool. Right?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. You just teed up such a beautiful opportunity. So I'm not going to say there might be one or two of those out there as you described in this career field, but for the most part, it's absolutely not that at all. The reason why you'd want to become an RV service technician is there's quite a few reasons. One is I need to let you think for a second. I want to envision this, okay? When you think of an RV service technician, think of a house. Think of the house you live in. Think of the whether it's an apartment or a physical house you rent, or it doesn't matter, the place where you live. When you walk in, you have electrical running through that house. You have plumbing, because when you take a shower, you need some water. You have appliances in that building. You have support systems and things such as beams and different things. Well, guess what? That's an RV. It's a house on wheels. Okay. So a lot of people don't realize or think of it that way. They think of it kind of like you mentioned. First of all, they think Winnebago, and Winnebago is just a brand name within a very large industry. But we're actually over 8 million registered RVs on the road out there. We have continued growth over the last 20 years of growth. And during the pandemic, we were actually the third fastest growing profession in the country because the pandemic, everybody wanted to get outside and they did. Well, at some point you might need to repair some fixes or have some fixes. And so that's why being a service technician, beyond the fact we can get into the great money that you can make, the great opportunity to be your own boss, the great opportunity to work north-south, work north in the summer and south in the winter, travel from campground to campground, hang your little hat that says I'm a service tech, and you'll have, plenty of business as people when things go wrong. So the real answer is, why not be a service tech? It's pretty cool.
It sounds pretty cool. Okay, so you touched on a couple of things. I spoke to you earlier about how I get a lot of DMs and emails from people saying, Lia, I'm interested in the skilled trades, but I don't know what skilled trades to go into. I don't know what I'm going to like. And I always, reply, unfortunately, unless you try it out, you really won't know. You have to do it to know what you like and what you don't like. So it sounds like being an RV tech is a great place to start, whether you fall in love with being an RV tech and then that ends up being your career, or you get the exposure to the plumbing, the electrical, the structure, the building carpentry, right? I mean, that's going to give you a vast amount of knowledge and information on kind of like what direction you want to lean into.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. In fact, we've created the program. It's actually 4 levels of the program. There's level 1, level 2, 3, and 4. And in level 1, we purposely built this for just what you're saying. We know I'm an example of that. My father unfortunately passed away when I was young, and I never learned anything. I had to go in the military. I couldn't tell you the difference between a flathead screwdriver and a Phillips head. But yet today I can tear apart a diesel, a new hydraulic, a turbine. Anyways, our program, very similarly, we start off with the basics. And so if you don't even know the difference between a screwdriver, that's okay. But within 40 hours of instruction, you're going to be able to understand Ohm's law and how electricity goes up and down, amperage.
Yeah.
So you with a high school diploma, and in some cases, we don't even require a high school diploma to train on this. But it is basic enough that we will take you from point A to point B in 40 hours to where when you're done and you're certified there, you will have a flavor and a taste for things that maybe you've never had an opportunity to see, because we took it out of high schools, right? We took it out of high school years ago. So I have purposely actually driven our program back to the future, if you may, or back. We're launching.
Great Scott.
I know that I said that exactly right, but that we're putting this program in high school. It's this level 1 of 40 hours because we're not interested in all 15 students in a class becoming RV techs, but we wanted to go fill electrician voids. And we know we need electricians. We know we need plumbers. And they'll be exposed enough to say, you know what? I like this. I like this flavor. I like what this is. And so, that's level one for us. And then, of course, as you get into level two and the other levels, you get more extensive. You'll be life learning as RVs evolve. You have to learn new systems. You have to learn new technology and all that. But, for those that want to make a life of it, obviously you can. Or if you just would like, at the end of 40 hours, if nothing else, Leah, you can go and change out your own electrical receptacle for some reason. So even if you never use it, you save yourself $200 for having to call an electrician or your refrigerator. So very good life skills that I think would become useful for anybody.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the skilled trades. No other career path is going to better set you up for success in life skills, in my personal opinion, other than the skilled trade. I just seen it time and time again. And you mentioned like traveling, being able to go where it's warm when it's cold and go where it's cold where it's warm. I really love that idea. Talk to me a little bit. How does that play out exactly?
Sure. That's so the other thing is, not only do you get a kind of flavor of all the different trades and the training, when you actually become an RV service technician, you can either take a dealer path, which is working for a dealership in some place geographically that you want to live, or you can do what's called a mobile tech. And now the mobile tech is kind of like Uber on wheels, but you're a service tech. And when you think about an RV, where do people usually take RVs? To campgrounds, correct? Okay. And so imagine that you have your vehicle and you have your RV, your own personal RV with some tools and stuff in it. And you just, I love Michigan in the summertime. Kid Rock made a great song about it. Okay. Summertime Michigan. Yeah. But wintertime in Michigan, let's just say it sucks, right? It's pretty cold. Okay. Well, guess what? You get in your car, you pack up your RV, and you head down to Florida and you spend winter working down there. So that's the flexibility this program has in being an RV service technician, is that you can, go wherever you want. And since most people, when they have their RVs, when do they break? Typically when they're out, not sitting in their driveway when they're out. Well, if any of you with kids know, when mom's not happy or the kids aren't happy, the last thing dad wants is to have a broken air conditioner. Gosh, I don't see them. Oh, I see over here. They're an RVTI certified tech. They'll help me out. So, it's very versatile. You can take it in many different directions. It can be very mobile. In today's world, nobody, the remote working idea, a lot of people are being called back to work. Guess what? You don't have to be if you're a service technician. You can still be out by yourself. You can still do it.
Yeah, I love the freedom. I love the freedom of that, being able to travel, see different states, being able to get a job anywhere. So this is something that's important that I discuss sometimes with listeners, is that when you become an electrician in one state, that doesn't translate to all states. So as an RV technician, do I have that restraint?
You do not have that restraint. There is one small restraint. There's one small restraint out there. There's not a restraint on the service technician piece of it, but we do mess with propane systems. So there are just a handful of states, couple states that require a state propane certification. Now, if you have the certification through us, so we are the only industry standard out there for RV service tech repair. It actually gives you, what's the right word I'm looking for? It articulates you to actually being approved to do it, because we have it in training. But there are a couple of states, but it's very, very minimal. For the most part, you could take it across any state, even into Canada, if you want. So, no, you don't have those restrictions. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There's a couple provinces in Canada that are a little different, but for the most part, you can travel Canada with this certification. And
now, if I happen to be in a state where they have this propane extra certification, how challenging or how long does it take to get it? What's your knowledge and background on it?
It's very minimal, and it's typically take an online class and pay $50, that type of thing. But how you kind of get approved for it by having the certification is after so many hours of actual work and doing that, it equates to the equivalency of the knowledge. It's all safety based. They just want to make sure that you know what you're doing.
Yes, safety first. We love safety here.
Safety first.
Safety first. So why is there a shortage of RV tech? Because right now you're making it sound pretty awesome.
No, it is. The shortage, I think, is there's a couple of forces. The first one being is, as I asked you in the beginning, we start talking, did you ever think of an RV service technician? And your answer was no. So that's kind of, I guess, the biggest one. They don't know about you. You don't even think about it. But let's, right. And that I think is directly correlated to the fact that we are a small industry in a very big world. But with that being said, a lot of times people don't realize that there is a career that can be done with it, the money that can be made with it. They don't realize, but the other shortage reason is driven by the fact that we have a lot of aging out technicians too. The industry, you hear that story, kind of grew out of a back garage. I mean, the RV industry really did it. If you're in the RV industry, you will hear the word Elkhart, Indiana, because that is the epicenter of almost 85-90% of everything that goes on in the RV industry is out of that small geographical area. So unless you're from that area and you're not in RVs, you may not know anything. And so it is, it's the part of not knowing. The second part is because a lot of the technicians have been they've been kind of homegrown, if you may. They grew up wrenching with dad, mom, grandpa, what have you. As you know, that's a dying art. So so we had to supplement it with a formal, accredited, standardized curriculum and professionalism, which is what RVTI has done. But because of that, those folks are aging out. And so you've got, over 65% of our technicians are over the age of 35. And so anybody that's thinking about doing this career field, it isn't going to, it's not going to go away anytime soon. I mean, as quickly as we bring them in, some are retiring or moving on because it is a physical job. So, it's not as physical as a lot of trades jobs. You think about it, the worst and dirtiest you really get is you might have to mess with what we call the black tank, which is the sewage part of the pipe that you have to connect. But other than that, you can stay pretty clean. You don't have to get real dirty. You're not lifting anything real heavy. You can, but at the same time, you don't have to. And, so the aging out population, some of the stereotype that comes with it, especially for the women, I feel bad because they say, well, it's trades, and as we know, everyone kind of gets, but that's okay. I always think of the movie Revenge of the Nerds, and the nerds say, we will dominate. Trade will dominate. You're seeing it. And unfortunately, I'm old enough to see that pendulum. I'm old enough to remember when trades they were sexy. They were the hottest thing. And then we said, everybody's got to go to college now. And the worst thing we could have done. And now the pendulum's shifting back, and I'm glad to be a part of that piece. And so, those are just a couple of the reasons I think that people just don't think of. But that's why I'm on your show, because I want people to think about it. And we haven't even talked about the great money you can make.
I was about to say, let's talk about one of my favorite subjects,
Sure.
Money. How much money can I make doing this?
Sure.
Tell me about the money.
I would say right out of the cuff, you'll make as much money as hard as you want to work. There's no ceiling. There really isn't. Now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will throw out that the mean salaries and such fall in line with an auto or diesel mechanic. So, for the most part, that mean would be in the neighborhood of 55 to 75. Geographically, that can change, but for the most part, 55 to 75. And that's with literally just 4 weeks of training. Okay. So that's not bad money. Making six figures, most of the technicians that are out there that do this as a career are going to be over six figures. You're not going to do it without being over six figures. I did have to laugh because I looked at some of your podcast on the elevator technicians and stuff, and they're the highest paid, and I'm like, well, they make some good money, but I can tell you an RV service technician that's motivated and wants to, just have a good career easily makes 6 figures or more. I actually have a gentleman who I know personally who works in the Hilton Head area, and all he does is install awnings. He works at 2 campgrounds, and these are high-end campgrounds, but he installs awnings. He works 3 days a week and makes $150,000 a year and works 3 days a week. So
I'm about to be an RV tech. I
love it. You can.
So where do I sign up?
There's people that just install like solar systems, aftermarket solar systems. So I mean, it's all across the board because you're learning the trades, you're learning things with your hand, you're learning how these things work, and then what happens is once you have that confidence and you have that foundation, then you'll naturally find the piece that you like the most. Like, man, I really dig this solar part, or I really dig the chassis part of this, or I really dig the slide out part of this. And that's the luxury of the field. And I found after 56 years on this earth, the greatest thing folks can have is options. And that's what I feel like, is, whether you make a life of this or you do it as a side hustle or, whatever, it can pay you back tenfold in a lot of ways. And it gives you options.
I love it. It's sounding better and better as we move along. You have a couple of different programs, right?
I know.
There's a scholarship program as well, isn't there?
We do. We have the Kevin Phillips Scholarship.
Okay.
But I would say this: we are set up as a 501c3. So for those that don't know, that means we're a nonprofit. That means we're a charitable contribution, and we use that because a lot of the training aids and that kind of thing get donated to us. So that allows us to be extremely affordable. To give you an idea just how affordable that is, if you really, anybody off the street can walk in and take level 1. There's 4 levels. There's level 1 and level 2. Those 2 combined together are about 4 weeks of training. Okay. And that's $630 is all that is. Now that's, if that's tough for you, then you want to fill out a Kevin Phillips Scholarship, which you can find on our website. And then it goes through a review process, and a good portion of the time that you'll be accepted. And then there's no cost. So the other route you can go, you can walk into a lot of dealerships if you have a little bit of experience already and start working with the dealership, and they will put you through our program because all of the dealerships, for the most part, are partners with us. So they train our program in their, so I would say with complete confidence, money will not be your barrier for doing this. There's too many avenues to be able to take it. It would just be interest, motivation, desire to do it. And we have, we have multitude ways of taking it. You can take it online. You can take it in person. You can take it in a hybrid format. So yeah, pretty easy to do.
Okay. I don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. I have the potential to make a lot of money to do it. Okay. To get to like a level 4 mastery level,
Sure.
How much time do I've got to commit? How much hours in do I need?
Sure. So the 4 levels I mentioned, there's level 1. We call that the inspection level. That's somebody who can go in and evaluate any RV on the inside and say all these systems are working like they're supposed to. The additional 3 weeks of training is level 2. Completion of that, you can now not only go in and validate they're all working. If something is not working, you can actually troubleshoot it and repair it. So that's the foundation. You're now an RV tech. Level 3 is an additional 5 areas of specialty. These are specialty areas. And in those areas, they each have about 20 hours that you would have to take. And these are offered all across the country. A lot of them online, a lot of them, but they're through the vendors and suppliers. And you think about it in an RV, all the specific companies that have pieces and parts in there. That's that level. That's where you get into that stuff. And so, and then once you complete those 5 areas in 20 hours, you're awarded the master, which is the highest level at the current time. So as far as timeline goes, if you're not working, it is very feasible you could become a master in a year. If you're a working adult, if you're working and, especially if you're in the field, it comes down to kind of those specialty areas where you're kind of at the mercy of when they're offered, and so, but there's over 200 plus classes that we already have loaded into the library within level 3. So, shortest probably a year to master, longest 2 years if you're working full time also. We do not, it's more about learning the skills and the tasks that are in there. And as you have those, that gives you that mastery of those areas. A lot of people, though, as I mentioned, they'll get 1 and 2 done, and then they'll find this niche. They'll find AI, like my awning installer. He doesn't care about going into all the other specialties. He just wanted to get the foundations of how it works so he could do this piece. That's okay. But the program is made that way. So if you want to go all the way through and master, you can. But at the same time, if you find success just after your foundations and installing awnings or in solar systems, you can be very successful, and you may not choose to go that way, but it's there. And this is constantly being evolved. This is built by the industry. So all the people that build the RVs, we are actually a self-regulated industry. So we inspect for safety from every facility. And so from that, the curriculum's built, and that's what gives us the ability to be the standard of the industry. And so, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And then another program that you offer is for women who are incarcerated, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our incredible sponsor, Supply House. Calling all electricians, SupplyHouse.com's Trademaster program is completely free and gives you access to free shipping, full order discounts, and more. You can learn more at supplyhouse.com/T-M. Use promotion code SH5 for 5% off your first order. The code is valid through September 30th, 2025. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, we're really they've actually been a partner. It's called the Wyndham School District down in Texas, specifically. Now we worked with a few others too. We've actually worked with, probably 8 or 9 correctional facilities across the country. And how we got into that was, our industry is a pretty forgiving industry. And of course, we're not necessarily going after that as a specific group as much as it is in this particular scenario. These young ladies, can only be incarcerated up to 2 years. These are very minimal crimes, if you may. But we partnered with the Wyndham School District. It's an actual school district in Texas. And we gave them the program. We trained their instructor. And today we have over 100 plus that have graduated out of there. A lot of them, some choose to go back to where they were. Some actually we help place somewhere else across the country. But the success rate in that has been about 30% roughly. So 3 out of 10 that go through actually fall all the way through. But once again, all of them now have a skill, that they learn level 1. So, they go and maybe they became electricians, maybe they became plumbers. So we're very proud of that. That's just one piece. We're set up in a format where we call it the hub and spoke. So the hub is Elkhart, Indiana, as I mentioned earlier. But the spokes, where about 80% of all the training happens, is all across the country. So we have high schools that we're teaching this in. We have prison systems we're teaching this in. We're teaching at dealerships. We just topped 22,000 individuals that have trained on this in the last 5 years. So, like I said, the Wyndham School, that's just one example. The other group of women specifically is the RV Women's Alliance, which is a group within the industry. And we have trained well over 100 in there as well, too. And these folks are in the industry. And it's a great group. If you just have an interest in getting into the RV world, the industry, when I say the industry as a whole, check out RV Women's Alliance because they do a lot of good stuff. And they've been around now for about 5 years. And we work hand in hand with them.
That's pretty cool because when I think about people who are in those types of positions, friends of mine who have actually been incarcerated, probably leaning into a lot of drugs or petty theft type of behavior. I can only imagine what the path would look like or how they would move through life when you actually have an opportunity to have a viable skill, right? Because I actually have friends of mine who are involved, unfortunately, in the past with drugs. And one of the things was like, well, how else am I going to make money? What else?
Exactly.
What else am I going to do? This is all I know. This is what it is. But to be set up for success by having a strong foundation with a skilled trades, that even if you don't continue with the RV route, you will actually be able to get a job within the skilled trades far better with that foundation than none whatsoever.
Exactly, Leah. That, I mean, I will just tell you from a personal standpoint. Yeah, there's a few. When we first launched, I got a few counter arguments to doing it, right? As you can imagine. Well, why you have to go to prison to get something paid for? The reality is this: the majority, and I mean overwhelming majority, looked at it as what a great opportunity, because I think all of us at some point in life maybe had a bad choice or two, and I'm not here to judge anybody in any situation. Yeah, I know. If this wasn't live and I didn't have coworkers, I might get it.
Friends who count don't count.
But gosh, the expense of incarcerating somebody, along with the fact, like I said, the luxury of our program, it's not so narrow-minded that we're only teaching you like a laser, for example. Nothing against any laser technicians out there, but I only taught you one laser, and if I don't go into that, there's nothing else I've learned.
Right.
With the level one we teach. We taught you how to, electrical, all the things I mentioned, electrical, plumbing, all this. So, you go out there and you do something in another trade, but you got that foundation. If nothing else, you got that excitement and that confidence and that thing that, that a kid growing up or a woman growing up in urban Chicago or something, you're not going to be exposed to anything like this. And unfortunately, it takes incarceration to be exposed to it. But guess what? We made them a more productive this, and they come out, they're now giving instead of taking, or whatever the case is. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. I stand behind it. And like I said, we've had a couple different jails or scenarios that we've used that we've trained some of the folks in, and not all of them make it. But like I said, about 3 out of 10 do something with it.
Yeah, that's 3 out of 10. I always say if you can change one person's life, you don't know the ripple effect of that. You don't know how many other people that one person touches. So in your perspective, it might be that one, but then the people that they touch after that, you have no clue how far that goes. So
no, you really don't. You really don't.
Okay. So what I get from this is a lot of independence, freedom. I feel like a lot of opportunity, but how much opportunity is there really? Like, how many RVs are out there to work on in the U.S.?
Well, if you drive down Interstate 75 or 95, if for those on the East Coast, I would challenge you that about every 25 miles you might see an RV or something, or definitely RV dealerships. But in actual numbers, there's well over 8 million registered RVs out there. Okay.
Wow.
So we can start with that. On top of that, we have been on a growth plan for the last 3 decades. Yes, as of recent, we've plateaued a little bit, but simultaneously, at the same time, during COVID, we were double what we typically produce. So what does this all equate to? What this means is we've got decades combined with already a shortage as we were going into this decades ago. The pandemic accelerated even a bigger gap. And on top of that, we have an aging population. On top of that, we have declining amount of seniors coming out over the next 10 years. I mean, we're no different than other trades. I'm not here to challenge. Every trade needs people. I mean, I'm really drinking the Kool-Aid for all trades here. But selfishly, for my trade, I think ours is the coolest, and you can do a whole lot more with it and make a lot of money. But at the same time, I think I mentioned this in 2020, we were the 3rd fastest growing profession in the country, and we were already in a shortage situation there. So the other thing I left out that I think is really important here is there's a lot of fear around AI taking jobs and things of that nature. I'm not going to say that we don't or do not want to use AI to make efficiencies better and do some things, but this is a pretty AI exempt type career field. I mean, you're still going to have to physically get out and do some things. The only thing that might be a little bit easier, you carry a little box and you type in and this gives you the answer versus having to troubleshoot like you do now. But at the same time, it's pretty safe from losing it to AI. But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's such a shortage on the dealership side. There's a shortage in the mobile tech side. And as I mentioned, worst case scenario, RVs go away. Guess what? You can be an electrician, you can be a plumber, you can be all of it because you've already learned all the trades. So pretty safe.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've got a lot of opportunity to continue with the field for a healthy amount of time. Quite frankly, I mean, I have some friends that aren't in the skilled trades. Sorry, guys, that still can't afford homes.
I hang out with some of them too.
They're still cool, right?
They're still cool. They're not the coolest, but they're still cool.
Still cool.
They're actually having a harder time, especially now, buying a home. And I've had a couple of them tell me that they were interested in kind of like doing the RV thing. So, I mean,
yeah, we definitely don't encourage full-time living, like year-round in them. They're not necessarily built for that, but seasonal traveling in them, extended amount of time in them, of course. But there are a lot of people that are choosing that they spend half the year, traveling and living in their RV. But yeah, we don't support the idea of them living in full time, just like I said, because they're not built to the same as what your house is built to, because there's a lot of codes, as you know, and things that go into a house. Whereas this is still a recreational vehicle that is used.
Yeah, well, I know on TikTok too, I see a lot of like living out of RVs and stuff. And again, I think that is falling back on just like how expensive everything has become.
Yeah, you brought up another point too. The housing crisis, which will never, that to me, that's not a forever thing, right? That's a conditional thing. But with it being where it's at, and probably for a few more years, once again, speaking to job security, there are people are using their RVs a lot more than they used to. And I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. I apologize if I did or I didn't, but traveling nurses, a lot of professions fit nicely into, using an RV, that if you're working remote, and, traveling nurses, traveling teachers, homeschooling, if you have the luxury, the ability to homeschool, getting an RV in. And these are a lot of what I hear a lot of times, or even students that come in to take the class. They're like, I have my own RV and I just want to not be reliant upon having to call a technician every time or find a technician. And so I'm getting certified myself. And for the most part, unless it's a heavy, like chassis lift or something where you might need a lift system, you will be able to take care of your RV, being certified. So, once again, whether you make a profession out of it or you just do it for your own learning, for your own RV, or two, you want to do a side hustle, it's a great career field.
Yeah. It sounded more and more like it. I'm really liking what I'm hearing. And I've definitely looked at a couple of RVs, especially in 2020. I was looking at it, and the first thing that popped in my head is, I want to be able to fix it myself. Is literally what came to mind. So that's another route to take. Like if you're somebody that wants to invest in that, but you want to have the control and independence, this is also another great opportunity for you to give yourself that. What I heard you talk a lot about dealerships. Is it I can only work at a dealership if I'm an RV tech? What are my options regarding employment? Sure.
Yeah, no. The working at a dealership is just one option. So when we train you at RVTI, we're going to certify you in the trade itself. Where you choose to use that and take it is up to you. So, one route is a dealership. Dealerships, you can go in, you can work for a large organization, you can work for a small dealership, or there's also very large groups of dealerships you can work for. Another option is you can become your own boss, be your own boss, and be what we call a mobile tech. A mobile tech is somebody that as it describes, is not necessarily tied to a physical facility. They may not be tied to a dealership. They might be Kurt's RV Repair, for example, or Lia's RV Repair. And they, you can take that and travel from campground to campground. You can just, outline your own geographical area. If you go on our website, we're actually in the process of updating a map that will list every certified RVTI tech out there. So when a consumer has an issue and they might be in, Bismarck, North Dakota, they can just go to our site, type in, find me a tech, and they'll pop up all the RVTI certified techs. And that's nothing more than being certified. That just identifies that you're certified. And of course, you go out and you get your own LLC and set up your business.
Yes.
And so, if you want to paint a really cool scenario, I've got a 7-year-old little granddaughter, and I contemplate on how do I coach her in the years to come of work. And if you think about this, you could come in, get the training, be done in 6 months, go all the way through a master's. So let's say 2 years. You continue to work while you're doing that. You're only out $600 if you're basically paying for it yourself, which you can get a scholarship and take care of that. But so you're pretty much debt free, other than the debt that you take on, that you choose to take on. And you do that for 2, 3, 5 years. Maybe you start working for a dealership, get exposed to others by people being around you if you haven't had that luxury. In 5 years, you decide, you know what, I'm going to go out and be my own mobile. You do that for a couple of years, understand that. And in the meantime, you're hiring a couple people to work. By the time you're 30, you have 5, 6 people working for you. And the story just gets better from there. So, that's the luxury of the trades. You can do that in all the trades, right? For the most part. It's just, gosh darn it. I thank you to you and your show and, all the others that are trying to bring back and make skilled trades sexy again. Cause they really are.
They are.
You can have such a nice sustainable living, but as we talked about, it's just exposing people to it. They don't know what they don't know. So.
Right, exactly. Like when we first spoke, I had no idea this was the thing. And it's like, well, I heard of RVs before. I looked at buying an RV. Yeah. You just don't think like if it's not something common or you're brand new to it, it's not discussed in high school. It's like
no.
At all. So, it doesn't come to mind. And then there's also the stigma that like, well, when I think of RVs, any kind of exposure was primarily on media or social culture surrounding. Mm-hmm. It's this stereotype that just gives a really poor representation of what it actually is.
Return an RV?
Yeah. And something I'll share with you too, you talk about the different options. I said dealer or mobile. I did leave another one out. There's also what we call the independent techs. That's somebody who, when you think of like a Jiffy Lube, right, where all they do is oil changes or things of that nature. It's kind of the same thing. There's independents across the country that all they do is service and repair, because there's such a demand. The dealerships can't handle all the load of the service and repair.
I love that.
So that's another option. You go find yourself a 10,000 square foot building with some high ceilings and you become your own service center. I know quite a few people in the industry that have just that. They have maybe 2 bays. They have a team of about 4 or 5, and they're pulling down.
How much do they make?
$500,000 a year with their facility. So
numbers.
Yeah. Well, and I will tell you, I appreciate being on your show. And if people want validation, just go find yourself somebody who's been an RVer for a lot of, for 5-10 years. And just ask them what their pain points are, and they'll most of the time they'll come out and say, well, gosh, when you have to have something repaired, I can't find a tech and it takes so long to get it fixed. Well, guess what? You can be the answer for that by becoming certified and becoming a tech. And, in dealerships charge about $150 to $200 an hour. That's their flat rate to fix something. If you look at car dealerships, they're only about $125 to $150. So, it's not small change. And that's it, even if the dealership gives you only half of that or 20% of that, it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you so much for coming on the Sparky Life. Where can people find you? How can we get access to this?
Sure. Well, as a lot of folks, you go to our website, which is www.rvti.org. and that stands for Recreation Vehicle Technical Institute. One point of clarity, I want to make sure folks know. So we are the only certifying school in the country in the RV industry service repair. There are a couple other schools out there, one in particular in Texas. We have no affiliation with that school. That is not a school affiliated with the industry. So I just want to make that clear that it's important. All you have to look for really is the black gear. It's black and yellow are our colors, kind of looks like this, but it's a gear. But if you go there, it has additional information. If you're interested in taking classes, if you want to work for a dealership, any of that, it all starts right on that website. And any one of my staff would be more than happy to help you.
Okay. Do you have a way for people to contact you if they have more questions or they need more detailed information, or maybe they're not sure, like in their area, if there's a facility they can actually go to or not?
It still would be to go to that website. It would be the best route for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
they have contact on the website.
Contact on the website. I'm sorry if I didn't say it. Yeah. All the information. In fact, I think there's 4 words across the top. One is contact us. And that will, even if you just want to call and talk, like you see this, I still don't know, call. And quite honestly, my staff all knows if they can't answer it, they can send the call directly to me. So
awesome.
And I'll take your call.
I think that's another thing that I love about the skilled trades, and what I find is the human relationship. In the skilled trades, I find that when I, am having a hard time with a problem, I can literally call and actually speak with a human and get some guidance. So,
and shame on me for not bringing this up. If there's one thing about this career field, and I come from education predominantly and such in the past. This career field is people driven. I mean, because it all starts with the RV experience. You've heard of our Go RVing brand, right? Go out, experience, Go RVing, and all that. RVing is about making memories, family memories, and good times, and all that. Because of that, I think it just touches on that human piece of it. And this industry is all about, the face to face, the human touch, the caring for each other. It is almost a cult in some ways. Like you guys are you've been part of RV. I mean, but it's wrapped around in the world of politics, left, right, center, all this. Guess what? RVing is right there in the middle. Everybody wants to do it. So there's no arguments about it. It's like, we just want to have good memories and good times. And so, as an RV service technician, we just want to make sure you keep going. In fact, that's our mission. Our mission is to make sure that folks keep having a good time when they're RV. We just don't want to interfere with it. We want to keep them going.
I love it. I'm thinking I might get myself an RV. I think this sealed the deal. And then I might need to do the level 1 just so I can feel like, and if I need a specialist, I can reach out.
I think I know somebody that can get you set up today. That's for sure. We'll get you going.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure.
No, thank you for having us.
The Sparky Life. Don't forget to subscribe.
Create the sparks in your life.